You just started lucid dreaming, and everybody's telling you about a million different things to start. So this is a video to just help you learn, where should I start? The first thing that you're going to need is dream recall. And I don't mean some small half-remembered dream every single night. I want you to remember multiple dreams every single night. This is very important, and it's going to be your first step into getting consistent lucid dreams. I think it's very important to see things as a game instead of seeing it as some sort of a mental mind-bouncing meditation technique. It's simply a game, and I want to teach you how to do it from a gamer to another gamer.
Future Sensei here. I just noticed that I use the words skill and game interchangeably. In my mind, that's the type of game we're using. So continue with your video.
Most of this is a skill that you're going to continually learn and grow upon. And you also have your base skills that you need to get higher and higher. And these things you need to increase in order to get better at your techniques. So I can do any technique and it'll work eventually. But if I'm better at the technique, or if my skills are better, the technique will work better. It's more like basketball, right? Like I can try to dunk over and over, but if I can't jump high enough, it's not gonna work. But if I train, I may be able to jump high enough in the future. Or maybe there's a jumping technique that I can use now that'll make it to where I can jump high enough to do it. It's all about your skill, your actual physical abilities with controlling your mind and how it interacts with dreams, and your techniques for doing that. And a lot of technique can cover for really bad abilities, but over time, your abilities will be grown and built up just like in an RPG, in a video game. A lot of people are trying out techniques and they're failing and they're not sure what to do next whenever a technique has failed for a week or two. Now, this is actually really difficult because they may be trying a technique that doesn't work for them, or they may not have enough recall for that technique to work. So without proper recall and without studying to make sure that the technique is a good technique overall, it's hard to tell whether or not the technique just isn't right at all or isn't right for you. Nobody can actually give you a direct guide on how to navigate your mind into lucidity. You're going to actually have to do the steps yourself and figure out what works for you. If every technique that you try doesn't work, this is good to know that it's not because techniques don't work for you. It's probably because you're just under-leveled, right? You need to maximize your stats. You need to get better and better at using techniques and dream recall. Because if you try every single technique, but you don't have any dream recall, it's like pushing all the right buttons without ever turning the console on. You need to have dream recall. A dream journal is probably the easiest way to recall your dreams because it's a physical way of doing something that a lot of us do in our heads. So whenever you practice this, think about what you're thinking about when you're doing it. You're thinking about your dreams, you're organizing them, you're putting them to words. This kind of thing is helping you remember your dreams. So if you can do that without a dream journal, then that's fine, but the dream journal is a very good step to learning how to remember dreams. Reality checks are kind of a beginner's technique that we teach beginners so that whenever they're in a dream, they can actually look around and say, wow, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming. And after that, it's not a very good technique for lucid dreaming. It's not going to add a substantial amount of chances for you to lucid dream, but if you have a false awakening, or if you really just don't know if you're asleep or awake, it is good to have it there. So especially in the very beginning, the first few months, I do recommend trying reality checks out throughout the day, every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes, or every 30 minutes. Yes, I have used lucid dreaming for a lot of things like increasing my pain tolerance or getting over fears, getting over anxieties, getting over worries, and figuring out what I want to do with my life. I've had sleep paralysis 3 times, I've done thousands of wilds, and I've only ever had sleep paralysis after a dialed. So you very much do not need sleep paralysis in order to get wild. When you fall asleep, your body automatically enters REM atonia to stop you from acting out your dreams. And if you are seeming to have a dream before that happens, then what I like to do is just imagine myself moving and I have this dream-like experience. I cannot tell whether or not it's a dream or not a dream. Feels like a dream, looks like a dream. I can't see waking life. But if I move my arm in waking life will move. So I imagine moving my arm and it works. I have this thing I call the fairy principle. and it's what I think keeps me humble and keeps me grounded. It's basically that we don't know any of this stuff. We are all just guessing. We make these games in our mind of how lucid dreaming may or may not work, and we try them out and we see if they work. And sometimes they work perfectly well, given the ideas that we put in, and sometimes they don't. And we have no idea why the ones that we try work or don't work. So I call it the fairy principle or the pixie principle, because for all we know, there's these little fairies that see us do something and they're like, oh, there you go, little fairy dust for you. Good job, you get to lucid dream tonight. We really don't know. The mind is really complicated. Lucid dreaming is very understudied. And so we really just have guesses about what does what in regards to our mind. So what we're all really doing is we're making up this game, and we're connecting our conscious and our subconscious with this game. And we say, if I do this during consciousness, this will happen during my subconscious times, and I'll get lucid, or I'll dream about this, or I'll dream about that, or I'll be able to control my dream. There are some really good guesses out there, but a lot of those guesses actually don't work very well when you put them into techniques. When I look at a technique, the first thing that I say is, what game am I playing whenever I start this technique? These are all games that we play, and some of the games seem to work and some don't. And don't try to kid yourself into thinking that this one technique, this person has everything perfectly figured out. We really don't know. But just try to figure out if it works for you. And that's all that matters, because it's a game. In all truth, when you're playing a video game or a board game, there's so much imagination that takes place inside your head that isn't happening on the video game or on the board game. Every technique is just some person's idea of what worked for them. They say, hey, I did this thing and it got me lucid, and here's the reason why I think it did that. But with lucid dreaming, the video game and the board game happen at night in your dreams. And so you need to be able to see your dreams, the game itself, in order to be able to know the rules and change all these things with your mind of how you want to dream.